Now that we have our dimension styles created and they're in our template, now we can start looking at how we're going to use dimensions to be able to dimension a drawing. So specifically what we're going to go through in this video are the majority of these commands, these types of dimensions that are available to us in AutoCAD. So we're going to go through linear dimensions, aligned, angular, radius, and diameter dimensions. Now these go along with the dimension style that you created. These are just specific types of dimensions that we are going to be using. So the first thing to do is I've got this funny shaped object drawn. So go ahead and take a few minutes, draw this object, but do not draw the dimensions. And we're going to walk through how to create those dimensions. So go ahead and do that now. Okay, now that you have that object drawn, we're going to start taking a look at these different dimensioning options in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete my dimensions off of this object. Then we can start taking a look at how to use each one of these and when you'd want to use each one of these different types of dimensioning. Okay. So the first one's just linear. So if we come here on our home tab of our ribbon, come over to our annotation panel, click on our drop list arrow to the right of where it says linear and select linear. Linear, you're going to use it anytime you want to measure the straight line distance between 2 points. So for instance, one of the dimensions I had on there was on this chamfer. So if I click on that left endpoint and I click on the right endpoint, that gives me a dimension that's a straight line distance from my 2 points, and in this case it's straight line in the X direction. So that's from my first endpoint directly to my second endpoint. So it would be the same as measuring the length of that line. So that's my 1 unit distance. Okay, so that's the same thing if we use linear and we want to measure from right there to right there. That's just going to be, in this case, 3 units in the X direction. You can also use this for measuring the distance in your Y direction, which where I'm getting this X and Y is from my origin over here on the left. So I've got my X axis going this way. I've got my Y axis going up. So now if I wanted to measure from that same chamfer, those same 2 points, and this time if I drag off to the left, it'll give me my Y distance, where before I was dragging this dimension down. So when I drag it down, I get my X. Drag it to the left, I get my Y. Okay, so that's the linear dimension command. Our next one there is aligned, and the difference between linear and aligned is measuring the actual length of your line. So if you've got a sloped line like what we have here, it's measuring just how long that line actually is. So it's measuring between those 2 points aligned along that line. So you can use aligned to measure straight distances too. You just have to be careful on what you click on. Because like for this one, if I wanted that dimension between those 2 endpoints, I can go ahead and measure that and I can put it in there with an aligned dimension. But sometimes aligned will work and sometimes linear works better depending on what you're dimensioning. I use linear almost all the time. I hardly ever use aligned. And so my default is I just always use linear. Okay, our next one down here is angular. So if we click on that little drop list arrow, we click on angular, now we can start creating an angular dimension. So for instance, down here on my chamfer, I need to click on 2 lines. So I'll click on that horizontal line, I'll click on my angled line, and now it'll give me the obtuse angle if I drag above it. If I drag out and to the left of it, I get my acute angle. And so those are my 2 options for what I wanted to place for this particular angle that I've selected. So I'm just going to delete a couple of dimensions here just to get them out of the way. Okay, I can do the same thing on my angled cut on the top. If I wanted to do an angular dimension for that, it's the same thing. I have to have a line that I reference, and so in this case I'm going to select that horizontal line again. Now I want to create an angle between that and my sloped line. So here I get my acute angle, or if for whatever reason I wanted the obtuse angle, it's got to be either inside on this one, or it can be outside and above. So here the one that works best is the acute angle, so just drag it outside the part and place your angle there. You can go ahead and we can try it going the other way too. Click the vertical line, click your angled line, and you can mark that angular distance also. So that's how you create angled dimensions. The last couple are radius. So if you click on your little drop list arrow, come down and click on radius. We've got two radiuses. Whenever you have a curve in AutoCAD that is not a complete circle, you're going to use the radius command to radius that, to dimension that. You're going to use radius. So just click right directly on the arc, click another place to place it, and then again come back, rerun your radius command, and again you're just going to click on that curve that you've created, and then click one more point just to place the text, and that's how you create your radius dimensions, and automatically they have the radius in front of them just like it should be. Then the last one's diameter. Click on that drop list arrow, come down to diameter, and diameter works very much the same way as radius. You just click on the circle that you want to dimension, and then you click another point to place that dimension, and it automatically adds in your diameter symbol for you just like what it should. Some of you have found out that you can use leaders to create these dimensions. I prefer to use the radius dimension and the diameter dimension for two reasons. For one, our radius and our diameter dimensions, they point to the center point. So if we were to extend a line from our arrowhead to our center of our circle, that's the way that our leader is created when we use these dimension commands. Is it's going to be an extension, so it's going to point someone to where the center of that arc or the center of that circle is at. And then the other reason why I use radius and diameter dimensions is because these symbols are automatically added for me. That the radius is already there, the diameter is already there, and also it measures it for me. So if I'm creating a leader, I have to type the text in, and so this way it's measuring the radius of that arc and the text is placed for me. If I ever change that arc, then that dimension will update with it. So that's another advantage of using radius and diameter out of here rather than using leaders to dimension your curves. Okay. Alright, so that's the basic dimensioning commands as we use them in AutoCAD, and that's linear, aligned, angular, radius, and diameter, and you'll get plenty of opportunity to practice using those as you complete through and work through your assignments.